I've always lived by the code of silence. No flaunting, no arrogance, just silent gratitude for the hand I'd been dealt. When I married Jamie, I was happy and content, but his mother, oh boy, she was something else. A whirlwind of skepticism and bitterness, she accused me of being a gold digger, only after Jamie's wealth, which, honestly, wasn't that much to begin with. Little did she know about my $1,000,000 secret. We met at a cozy little coffee shop. He, with his warm smile and nervous energy, me, buried in my books and black coffee. "Can I buy you a coffee?" he asked, flashing a bashful smile. I'm Jamie. That's how it all began. An innocent offer transforming into a beautiful journey. He proposed 2 years later, in the same coffee shop, with the same bashful smile. I said yes with tears in my eyes, and we danced under the stars, feeling like the only people in the world. However, our happiness had a shadow. Jamie's mother, Mrs. Thompson, never liked me. She was convinced I was after his money, whispering snide comments whenever she thought I couldn't hear, raising her eyebrows at our love. "I've seen your kind before, preying on unsuspecting kind souls," she'd hiss. One day, after an awkward family dinner, I'd had enough. "Jamie," I said with more firmness than I felt, "I can't keep dealing with your mother's accusations and snide remarks." Jamie, ever the pacifist, would just sigh, saying, "She's old, set in her ways. Just ignore her." Just ignore her? I would think to myself. She's making my life miserable. But I loved Jamie too much to let his mother get in between us. So I decided to have a little fun, a little revenge to get back at her for her unjust accusations. It was time Mrs. Thompson knew she wasn't the only one who could play games. My secret, you ask? I was a self-made millionaire. A successful software engineer, I had developed a program during college, which I sold for a hefty sum. The money was in a separate account, a detail I chose not to share with Jamie or his family, wanting to be loved for who I was, not for my bank balance. So I hatched a plan. I decided to act like the gold digger Mrs. Thompson accused me of being. I splurged on lavish gifts, extravagant holidays, and 5-star restaurants, all on Jamie's moderate salary. We were living the high life, or so it seemed. Jamie was confused but delighted, thinking we were spending my savings. Mrs. Thompson's sneers grew more pronounced, her comments more acidic. "I knew it! She's spending all your money!" she would sneer at Jamie. "You'll be left with nothing, mark my words." Jamie was bewildered, worried, but I would always reassure him, "Don't worry, I have it all under control." All the while, I secretly replaced every penny spent from my own account, ensuring Jamie's financial security was never compromised. Mrs. Thompson grew more furious, her accusations more frequent. Her suspicions were seemingly confirmed, and she was more than happy to tell the whole world about her gold-digging daughter-in-law. One day, she sat us down, her face a mask of seriousness, and said, "Jamie, I cannot sit back and watch her ruin you. I am cutting you off. You will not receive a penny more from me. Let's see how she stays with you when the money runs out." Jamie was a mix of confusion, anger, and embarrassment, his face turning various shades of red. "Mom, how can you say such things?" he stammered. "She loves me." "Oh, really?" she replied, eyebrows raised. "Let's see how long she stays when the money is gone." The stage was set. My seemingly frivolous spending continued, and Jamie's anxiety was reaching a peak. "What if we run out of money? What will we do?" he'd whisper at night, his voice laced with worry. "Trust me," I would say, squeezing his hand. "Everything will be all right." My secret was still safe, and the time to reveal it was drawing closer. Mrs. Thompson was in for the shock of her life. I could hardly wait. I spent days meticulously planning the grand reveal, my heart racing every time I thought about the look on Mrs. Thompson's face when she would find out the truth. She thinks she can ruin my happiness? I'd think to myself. Let's see who has the last laugh. I went on, more audacious in my spending, more theatrical in my display of wealth. Expensive gifts for Jamie, designer dresses, and ostentatious parties. I spared no expense in portraying the image of the reckless spender, the gold digger Mrs. Thompson believed me to be. One evening, as Jamie and I hosted a lavish party, Mrs. Thompson confronted me, her face red with anger. "You are ruining my son, you worthless gold digger," she hissed, her voice quivering with rage. I smiled sweetly, responding with feigned innocence. "I'm just enjoying the wealth your son provides me. Isn't that what you've been saying all along?" The fire in her eyes intensified, but she said nothing, her lips pressed into a thin line. Poor Jamie was caught in the middle, torn between the love for his mother and his love for me. "I can't take it anymore," he confessed one night, tears streaming down his face. "I can't be in the middle, torn between the two most important women in my life." That was the turning point. Seeing him so broken, so helpless, I knew it was time to put an end to this game. "Jamie," I said, my voice soft, "it's time you knew the truth." "What truth?" he asked, wiping away his tears, his eyes red and swollen. "The truth about my wealth," I replied, reaching out to hold his hand. "I am a millionaire, Jamie. I've been replacing every penny we've spent, ensuring you never lose anything." He stared at me, disbelief etched across his face. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to be loved for me, not my wealth," I admitted, tears welling in my eyes. "I wanted someone who loved Emma, the person, not Emma, the millionaire." Jamie hugged me tight, whispering, "I love you, Emma, with or without your money." With Jamie now in on my secret, we decided to have one final act, the grand reveal, something Mrs. Thompson would never forget. We decided to throw a lavish banquet, inviting all our friends and family. Mrs. Thompson was, of course, the guest of honor. On the day of the banquet, the air was charged with anticipation. I wore my most extravagant dress, diamonds glittering at my throat. Jamie looked handsome in his suite, his eyes sparkling with mischief. As we stood at the podium, the room silent in anticipation, Jamie began. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered you all here for a special announcement." All eyes were on us, the room buzzing with whispers. Mrs. Thompson sat in the front row, her eyes glaring daggers at me. Finally, the day of reckoning has arrived, she must have thought, believing her son was about to announce his separation from the gold digger. Taking a deep breath, I spoke up. "I have been accused of being a gold digger, of being with Jamie only for his wealth." The whispers grew louder, the air more tense. Jamie squeezed my hand, whispering, "It's time." My heart raced as I prepared to drop the bombshell, to expose my $1 million secret to the world, to finally have my revenge on Mrs. Thompson. The air was heavy with anticipation, the silence deafening as I began to speak. "But today," I continued, my voice steady despite the racing heartbeat, "I want to reveal a truth that has been hidden since the day Jamie and I met." I could feel the air thicken with curiosity, eyes wide and expectant. "I am not the gold digger as I've been so vehemently accused of being," I stated, locking eyes with Mrs. Thompson, whose face was now a palette of confusion and surprise. "In fact," I paused, relishing the moment, "I am a self-made millionaire. My wealth exceeds that of the Thompson family." A gasp rippled through the room, a cacophony of whispers following. Mrs. Thompson's face went from red to white, shock and disbelief mingling in her eyes. I have been playing along, acting the part of the frivolous spender, the gold digger, I continued, because I wanted to expose the prejudice, the judgment, the condescension that came my way, primarily from Mrs. Thompson. Jamie stood by me, his hand squeezing mine, his face a mix of pride and love. He addressed the crowd. I am ashamed that my own mother could think so lowly of the woman I love. Emma is a remarkable woman, self-made and successful, yet she chose to be with me, to share her life with me. I could see Mrs. Thompson squirming in her seat, her face a mask of humiliation and regret. I had dreamt of this moment, rehearsed it 1,000 times in my head, but the satisfaction was sweeter than I had ever imagined. This was it, I thought to myself. The truth is out, and the tables have turned. Mrs. Thompson stood up abruptly, her voice quivering. Jamie, is this true? Emma, is this some sort of sick joke? No, Mother, Jamie replied sternly. It's the truth. A truth that Emma kept hidden to protect our relationship, to protect me. And me? Mrs. Thompson asked, her voice breaking. You never gave her a chance, Jamie retorted, his voice laced with disappointment. You judged her, accused her, tried to turn me against her. Mrs. Thompson faltered, at a loss for words. The room was buzzing, a mix of shock, admiration, and curiosity. Friends and family came forward, congratulating us, expressing their astonishment at the revelation. Questions and congratulations poured in, but my eyes were on Mrs. Thompson, who sat there, her head bowed, a picture of defeat and regret. I walked over to her, my heart heavy with mixed emotions. Mrs. Thompson, I began, my voice soft. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to be accepted for who I am, not for my wealth or lack thereof. She looked up, tears brimming in her eyes. I am sorry, Emma. I was wrong about you. Her voice broke, the words barely a whisper. It was a moment of triumph, but it was also a moment of reconciliation. I had proven my point, had my revenge, but it was time to mend fences, to build a relationship that had been tarnished by prejudice and accusations. I hope we can start anew, Mrs. Thompson, I said, extending my hand towards her. Not as enemies, but as family. She took my hand, her grip firm, her eyes filled with tears. I would like that very much, Emma. The festivities continued, laughter and joy enveloping the room. But my mind was elsewhere. The revelation had sent shockwaves through the assembly, leaving a mix of admiration and awkwardness in its wake. I found myself surrounded by a throng of well-wishers, their praises and congratulations echoing in my ears. But my thoughts were with Mrs. Thompson, with the newfound truce, the possibility of a fresh start. As the night wound down, Jamie and I stole a quiet moment together, away from the prying eyes and incessant chatter. He wrapped his arms around me, his eyes searching mine. Emma, I am so proud of you, but I can't help but feel a pang of guilt. Guilty? Why? I questioned, my eyebrows knitted in confusion. I never stood up for you, never defended you against my mother's accusations. I let her tarnish your image, question your intentions, he confessed, his voice laden with remorse. You did what you thought was right, Jamie, I reassured him, my hand gently caressing his cheek. You tried to keep the peace, maintain a balance between the two most important women in your life. It doesn't justify my silence, my complacency, he argued, his gaze unwavering. I should have been your pillar, your defender. You were my strength, my support, I reminded him, my voice tinged with emotion. You believed in me, trusted me, and loved me unconditionally. That's all I ever needed. He pulled me closer, his lips meeting mine in a tender kiss, a silent promise of love and commitment. But reality soon intruded. pulling us back to the whirlwind of celebrations, to the myriad questions and curious glances. How did you amass such wealth? Why did you hide your fortune? The queries were relentless, the fascination unabated. I made smart investments, I replied, maintaining a facade of nonchalance. I had the good fortune of having a sharp mind for business and finance. But why hide it? Persisted an aunt, her eyes wide with intrigue. I didn't want it to define me, I answered, my voice firm. I wanted to be loved for who I am, not for my bank balance. The respect in their eyes was evident, the admiration palpable. Mrs. Thompson, meanwhile, watched from afar, her face a canvas of conflicting emotions. I could see the regret in her eyes, the realization of her misguided judgments, her misplaced accusations. I never meant to demean her, I thought, my heart aching for the pain I had caused. I just wanted her to see me, the real me, without the shadow of wealth and privilege. As the celebrations drew to a close and the guests started to depart, a sense of tranquility settled over me. The storm had passed, leaving behind a rainbow of possibilities, a horizon of new beginnings. Mrs. Thompson approached us, her steps hesitant, her eyes moist. "Emma, Jamie, can we talk?" she requested, her voice laced with vulnerability. We sat down, the silence thick with unsaid words, unvoiced emotions. "Emma, I want to apologize," she began, her voice trembling. "I was wrong, so horribly wrong about you. I judged you, berated you, all based on my own prejudices and insecurities," she continued, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I let my fear of losing my son cloud my judgment, taint my perception." "I am sorry, Emma," she apologized, her gaze locked onto mine, pleading for forgiveness. "I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive an old woman's foolishness." "I have already forgiven you, Mrs. Thompson," I replied, my hand reaching out to hold hers. "I only hope we can move past this, build a relationship based on trust and respect." "I would like that, Emma," she responded, her grip tightening on my hand. "I would like to get to know the remarkable woman my son has chosen to spend his life with." The journey had been long, the road fraught with obstacles and heartache, but the destination was worth every step, every tear. I had sought revenge, yearned for vindication, but in the end, I found something much more valuable, much more enduring: acceptance, understanding, and the promise of a new beginning. The air the next day was different, lighter, like the weight of years of misunderstandings and accusations had been lifted. The sun seemed to shine a little brighter, the birds sang a little sweeter, and the world felt anew, ripe with the promise of redemption. As Jamie and I walked through the garden, hand in hand, the atmosphere was tinged with a newfound sense of harmony, a symbiosis of souls. "Emma, do you think my mother will change?" Jamie pondered, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "I believe people can change," I mused, my gaze fixed on the horizon, especially when they realize the error of their ways. A flicker of hope danced in Jamie's eyes, a silent prayer for reconciliation, for healing. "I hope we can become a family, a real family," he whispered, his voice tinged with longing. "I hope so too," I agreed, squeezing his hand reassuringly. "But it will take time, effort, and a lot of patience." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The path to reconciliation was slow, laden with hurdles and setbacks. But the commitment was unwavering, the resolve unbroken. Mrs. Thompson was trying, genuinely trying to mend her ways, to build bridges and heal wounds. We spent more time together, learned about each other, shared stories and experiences. I saw the vulnerability behind her stern facade, the fear of loneliness, of abandonment. She saw my love for Jamie, my dreams and aspirations, the essence of who I am. I am starting to understand why Jamie loves you so much, Mrs. Thompson confided one day, a smile playing on her lips. You are a remarkable young woman, Emma. And I am starting to see the loving, caring mother behind the formidable matriarch, I replied, my heart swelling with hope. There were awkward moments, uncomfortable silences, but the ice was breaking, the walls crumbling. We were learning to see each other not as adversaries, but as allies, as family. I never thought I'd say this, but I am glad you are a part of our lives, Emma, Mrs. Thompson admitted one evening, her eyes moist with unshed tears. I am glad to be here, to be a part of this family, I responded, a warmth spreading through my soul. Jamie watched the unfolding camaraderie with a mixture of disbelief and joy, his heart dancing to the rhythm of newfound connections, of love and acceptance. I never thought I'd see the day when you two would sit together, laugh together, he marveled, his eyes shining with happiness. It's a testament to the power of love, of forgiveness, I said, my hand entwined with his. I am proud of you both, he declared, his voice thick with emotion. You've shown me the strength of the human spirit, the capacity for change and growth. And as we sat there, under the canopy of the twinkling stars, a sense of peace enveloped us, a feeling of belonging. The journey had been tumultuous, the battles intense, but the victory was sweet, the reward priceless. I set out to teach her a lesson, to make her realize the error of her ways, I reflected, my mind wandering back to the days of pain and strife. But in the process, I learned about the power of compassion, of understanding. I wanted revenge. I wanted justice, I thought, the echoes of past animosities resonating in my soul. But I found something much more profound, much more meaningful, love, family, and the promise of a better tomorrow. I didn't just gain a husband, I gained a family, I mused, my heart brimming with gratitude. And in the process, I discovered the essence of true wealth, the richness of the human spirit. And as the curtain fell on this chapter of our lives, a new one awaited, full of possibilities and adventures, of love and laughter. The journey was just beginning, and I was ready to embrace it, to savor every moment, every emotion.